All right, ladies. That's a glare off my glasses, but I can't see if I don't have them. So let's see if I can move this way. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to get over it. So anyways. All right. So this month we did 5 love languages. I think this is actually like my third copy of this book. They seem to get legs because they're so good. So what was everybody's thoughts on Gary Chapman's 5 love languages?
I have all my stickies. You can see
Yes,
them.
love
I
it.
thought it was really good. I think it helped me really understand myself better and what my love language was because I feel like I didn't have like a solid understanding, but I feel like it really helped clarify things for me and will help me going forward in relationships to verbalize what I need in a better way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a simplistic way to understand that we're all speaking different languages. And like I say to my clients a lot of the times, it's like somebody else is speaking Spanish, you're speaking French. It may be a Romance language and you might be able to figure out through context, but you're not getting the full gist of what they're saying, right?
Mhm.
And that analogy seems to help people go, oh, I I get it. And I love the fact that they have one of these CC that is for dating.
Mhm.
So it can help. It also has one. I'm pretty sure there's a parenting one. I know there's a parenting quiz.
Mhm.
Um, because I know I gave the quiz to my kids every couple of years just so that I could interact with them better, right? I mean, you as you're parenting and you can kind of figure out what your kids are, what they respond to, what they don't respond to, um, which definitely helps. But I think what I love the most is that now talking to my adult children, they have integrated this into their dating world. Um, and when things are going well, I hear them using the language. And when things aren't going well, they're like, yeah, we just don't speak the same language. She's big into gift giving and I'm not. I'm more into quality time. And so I think that part's pretty cool for me to see
Mhm.
it full circle. But just whoever's listening, so the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman is talking about are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And we all fall into one of those, and we often have a primary and a secondary language. But then it gets a little hairy because we speak in one language and may receive in another language. Um, for example, I am not a gifts person. I don't like gifts, but I love giving little gifts. So that would be an example of that, not speaking it, but I'm receiving it. So what about you, Ariana?
So this was my second time reading it actually, and um, I think being that it was my second time and I'm in a different phase of life now because I'm getting married, it was like made because we've already done the love languages quiz. So, but I didn't reread the book when we did that, and so it just made me more aware of just how differently the love languages can show up and like in ways that I can show up in the like for my fiance's love languages, you know? Um, and it's not as simple as we might think it is. I think a lot of the time these days, like throwing out the love languages is super common. Like everybody knows what they are. But I think that's made it more simplistic than it actually is. Like it's a little bit more complex. And the book helped me like realize that and that it is something that we have to like practice and really think about how we're doing that. Like one for me, I'm not very words of affirmation. Like it's hard for me. And sometimes it's just like I will say it very simply. Like thank you so much and like all these things, but it's adding those feelings behind it, right? And being like, this is
I really
like, I
appreciate
really,
what you do.
yeah, like I really appreciate that. And then this is why I appreciate that, because it helps me feel lighter, and like you're really helping me a lot, and like you're taking that load off of me, and I appreciate you for that, right? It's not just saying thank you
Right.
and like being super simplistic with how you're like like using that love language, and that's just an example, right? So it's like it was a great refresher, and kind of just I think it's also good in giving me better ways to explain that to my clients too.
Absolutely. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know. I know you guys have seen this.
Mhm.
'Cause I give it out to my clients all the time. Um, I love this because it does make it a little bit more simplistic. But I mean, it breaks down. Let's say you're saying words of affirmation. It gives you the actions, right? What if somebody has words of affirmation, what are the actions that you can do? It's your spoken words, written cards, thank yous, you being very specific about what you appreciate, what you recognized, and what you appreciated about that person, right? And what it does for you. The communication component of it is encouraging words, compliments, affirming their spirit, right? Everything that you just talked about. What I like about this chart is that it then says what to avoid, right? So if somebody has words of affirmation, the things that you should avoid the most are emotionally harsh words and undue criticism, right? So if we could just focus on the avoids, we're going to get 10 times further with our partner or our children or our friends, right? And this goes through all relationships. It's not just a romantic one, right? So I think that is, to your point, being able to take it a little bit further and then asking the person or your partner or your child, what do you like about words of affirmation? What do you like hearing? How do you know that I love you? What do I do that tells you that I love you? Right? So then we can get into those more specific things that's tailored to that person. So again, to your point, it's much more layered
Mhm.
than just, oh, well, I'm words of affirmation. Helpful, gives me a starting point, but now let's tailor it to you as an individual so that I can show up the way you need me to show up for you.
Mhm.
Right? So CC, how do you see this? You personally see benefit from it, which is great, right? And we all love that. How do you see using this to work with your clients?
I think with parents especially, like what you're saying, like how can I show up for them and asking them to take the quizzes like you did with your kids, I think that would be a good suggestion for parents, 'cause since I do primarily work with kids,
Mhm.
so that can help their relationship flourish. And that kind of even goes back to the Have a New Kid by Friday book, how it's like when you're engaging with your child about what they like, how they respond, then it's more likely that they won't be isolating. So just really, I think that can just really help the relationship flourish.
Absolutely. It's a great conversation starter, right? I want to learn you. I want to know more about you. So I will do one and then ask the kid to do one and then learn about each other together. And I mean, it's pretty revealing. We were just
Mhm.
talking about this in the car on what our kids think we think.
Mm.
It's it's often not even on the bullseye, right? It's just not in the same field. But rarely do we take the time to ask them, right? And to your point with the Have a New Kid by Friday, if we would do that on, well, what do you think are the appropriate consequences? Instead of just doling them out, lots of times kids will go much harder than the parent was going to go, right? Because they just assume, well, that's what mom or dad are going to do, right? Again, it's just these assumptions. We live in those. So it is a great thing to develop that relationship with your kid, hands down, because then they're like, oh my gosh, you care? Well, yeah, I care. I birthed you, I wanted you, you're here, right? But they just don't receive it that way for whatever reason. How about you, Ariana?
I would say, well, I've done before we read this, I did do this with one of my clients and gave the findings to mom, and that helped with their relationship. Like mom adjusted certain things and how she was doing stuff. And so that I've seen how that's been really good with kids and parents, and just parents understanding how their kids are receiving them, right? But I think because I do see couples, I think it is something I'll use for, I want them to read the book, would be great. It's super easy read, I think. Um,
Very.
because it just shows the disconnect that's not like it's not intentional, right? Because it's almost like we are from two different worlds in a way. And like we're not being malicious majority of the time. And we are misinterpreting what's going on. But it's hard for us to see that from either side of um, the fence, right? Because we're only thinking through what they're doing from our own perspective in our own world and how we were raised, right? And so instead of going that their conclusion could be different than ours.
Well, I think that's a really good point, and it leads me to the next. Like, I talk with my clients a lot about coming from a place of benevolence, right? Like, let's not think that our partner or whoever has malicious intents. We're all just living in our own matrix, trying to do right by ourselves and succeed and achieve goals and move forward. And when we hurt somebody else, 9 times out of 10, I always talk about the bell curve, the vast majority of us, if we hurt somebody else, it's just because our matrix bumped into somebody else's. It was not intentional. And that, going back to, okay, I think we're just speaking the different languages. Let's roll back. This goes back into reflecting. I heard this. Is that what you said? Is that what you meant? Right. And then shutting up and allowing the other person to agree or correct. Right. But where does our upbringing play into this? How do you think culture plays into this?
There was a portion of the book that was talking about, it was a couple, and I think it was the dad like did all these things for, or I don't remember if he was doing these things or buying things, but it was what he saw, so it was what he did, and it was not at all what his wife was wanting, so he was just doing like what he saw. So he had to step out of what he knew to do her love language. So I
Absolutely.
think like what we see is what we know, and we don't know what we don't know until we know.
Exactly. Right? As convoluted as that is, yes, ding, ding, ding. That's it, right? We're just ignorant. We don't, and true definition of the word ignorant, meaning you just don't know what you don't know, right? You're not stupid.
Mhm.
We're not talking about that. But true ignorance, I didn't know, right?
Mhm.
What about you, Ariana? The way you were raised or what you saw culturally, lived
Um,
experiences, or even past relationships?
I would say I had an interesting perspective, right? Because my mom and dad divorced when I was young, right? So it's like I didn't really get to see a lot of the relational aspect of things. Um, and so for me, how that played out was like I just would try to do what I saw people like to do, which made me very people pleaser-y, right? And so in doing this job and learning everything, and actually in reading that book, it helped kind of like shift things and like more so ask people instead of just trying to do everything to receive love and not knowing how I received love because I couldn't recognize that people were showing me love because I was too worried about how they were receiving me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think for me, it was just like I didn't really have good examples. So I was just trying to fill up every cup. If that
Sure.
makes sense. And I didn't know what that actually was, and I didn't know how to be intentional about, like, um, my relationships till I got older, and also until I was, like, tired of not having good people around me. And so I was like, "Something's gotta give," and I can only control myself and
Mhm.
also analyzing people, so
Well, I mean, and think about
Mhm.
that with friends too. If you have friends that, I mean, if your love languages and your friendships are completely different, you feel like you're pouring in and they're not reciprocating, right? I hear this a lot. Um, and maybe it's just that's not their language, so they don't have any importance on what you're doing. And you feel like you're just, you know, putting all of this energy into it, but you're not getting the return because it's not important to them. They don't realize that that's such a big deal,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, it plays out in friendships as well. And I saw it in particular with my daughter a lot, growing up because she's just more into the words of affirmation and the gift giving and those more tangible things as opposed to quality time and physical touch. Right. So if you are those and you're pouring and you're doing these types of things, right? You're saying and you're
Mhm.
doing, um, and your friends aren't like that, then yeah, they're not your people. Not that
Mhm.
there's anything wrong with them. They're just not your people because they can't speak your language,
Mhm.
or I shouldn't say can't, they just don't.
I was gonna say with thinking about that, it makes you like me think about love languages have to be super intentional because not all of us are going to speak the same love language.
Mhm,
Like it's just not possible.
mhm, mhm. Absolutely.
um, and so we have to really consider the other person. And so I think where the love languages comes in and where some people make a mistake, right, is not realizing that you have to consciously think about what you're doing for the ones that you love regularly.
Mm.
It shouldn't you should not just be living day to day, not thinking because then you're not considering anyone around you, right? And so
Absolutely.
and so
Abs-
that's where I think we can, especially in romantic relationships, we can get hung up on it's been so many years, they should know us already. I shouldn't have to this. Or like,
I hear that all the time.
I shouldn't have to. And it's like, but why not?
Well, and but did you convey that? Did you convey the
Mhm.
importance behind that? Or did you just assume? You just assumed that they're in the same room with you. They should pick up that your favorite color is whatever because that's all you wear or whatever. But that's not, again, not malicious, but it's just not, that's not where they place their importance. So they have to learn, but you need to speak it. And these are the conversations that need to be happening, right? To be able to learn it and understanding that these love languages can change. over the relationship over your lifetime. A lot of women are acts of service when they're moms. Take one thing off my plate and that shows me that you love me, right? But it might not always be that, right? A lot of men are physical touch, but it might not always be that. And it, you know, and it switches from primary to secondary. You know, I'm not a physical touch person. I'm not. I like to hug and I like to give hugs when I feel somebody needs one, but that's just not me personally, right? But my husband loves that. He loves to hold hands and he loves to sit next to me and, you know, all of those things. Well, since that's not how I receive it, I'm a quality time person. I need to know like, hey, these things are important to you, and being able to have that conversation. So now it's second nature for me to grab his hand when we're walking somewhere and walk with my hand on his back when we're in the grocery store, or I mean, it's little things that mean nothing to a lot of people, but he verbalized, that's what's important to me. This is how I feel loved when you do this. Okay, that's easy. I can do that. Right? But it's having those open conversations.
There's two quotes that is from the book that just stand out to me with this conversation. It says, love is something you do for someone else, not something you do for yourself. So that goes to what you're saying, like we're making these choices for our person.
Yeah.
And then the second one, it says ignoring our partner's love languages is like ignoring the needs of a garden. If we don't weed, water, or fertilize, it will die a slow death. So
Absolutely. And I always tell my clients, they it usually kind of jars them. But when I show them this and I say, like, look, just focus here on the avoids, because for someone whose words of affirmation, which one of my children is very much, the undue criticism and the harsh words, that is literally like a knife in his heart. If I say something harsh to him, I can watch his whole body just, I mean, it makes me tear up watching him as a kid. It's just, that's not the way you go about it with him. You can parent my other kids, I could be more harsh, not that I was intentionally, but parents, I mean, stuff comes out of your mouth that you don't mean, right? But with him, you could just watch him crumble, right? I have one kid, and you guys know which one I'm talking about, that would walk off, right? It was no big deal to them. But that's not his love language. His love language is quality time. So you can say whatever you want as long as you're with me, right? This gets into that any attention is good attention, right? So that would be more than likely a kid who is a quality time kid. So you can figure these things out by interacting with your kid. But the avoid part literally is like not watering the garden, putting a knife in their heart and twisting it. Like, I'm going to hurt you. Why? If you knew what crumbled your partner, we don't do it, like, ever, right? This gets into Gottman and fighting dirty and all of that kind of stuff. You don't do that to someone you love. Shame on you. I don't care how angry you are at your partner. You don't fight dirty. You don't criticize. You don't low blow. You don't stonewall, right? I'm sure we'll get into Gottman at some point in time. We'll read something of theirs. But understanding what their language is, if you just start off with not hurting them in a way that you know is going to hurt them, like, hey, that's a start, that's a win. And you can make big gains with that. Then start moving into those small little things that you can do that sends the message that they're loved. So pick a sticky, Cece.
Those were two good ones. There was, let's see. Hmm. Oh, something else that was good is we each come to marriage with a different personality and history. We bring emotional baggage into our marriage relationship. We come with different expectations, different ways of approaching things, and different opinions about what matters in life. So that just goes to like the perspectives we were talking about earlier and like what we know, what we don't know until we know.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's like the perfect way to wrap up today. That's the crux, right? We're all coming from our own lived experiences, our own childhood
Mhm.
role models, to your point, Ariana. And my parents divorced when I was 5, so no, I didn't get to see what a healthy marriage looked like. And I definitely remember the physical feeling, or excuse me, the emotional feeling, that energy of when they were together, and that didn't feel so good. And then my dad remarried, and that was absolutely not a healthy example. And my mom kind of went the opposite way. I'm not gonna marry because she thought that was healthier for me. But then I didn't get an example of a good, healthy marriage. I had to use my aunts and uncles, and I grew up with the Cosby Show, and that's a whole different conversation. But I was pulling what a healthy relationship looked like from multiple different places, not in my home. And so some people will have nothing, and some people will have massively unhealthy, and some will have healthy. I mean, we're cover the gamut there, right? And we bring all of that with us, plus our own past relationships. And that really convolutes things, right? I mean, call it baggage, but I don't like that terminology. It's just different perceptions.
Mhm.
So this helps us get on the same page. This is who I am. This is who you are. How do we come together?
Yeah, I do like that the book has really easy and great like examples to understand, and also great examples if you are someone whose partner isn't on board with like
Mhm.
diving in deeper and becoming more intentional. And it shows a great way to do that without like when it's just you trying to better your relationship intentionally. Let's say it that specific.
Absolutely. I like that part too. And I like that. Um, I think the quizzes are free again, right?
I don't know, but
There was a period where they were free, and then you had to start paying for them. I think they're free again, but they are in the back of the book regardless.
also, if you, I guess this cheat code at life, just look up 5 love languages PDF quiz and you should be able to find it and download it.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I did for the kids one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't buy the kid book, but I just searched it
And it avoids
online.
the website because it's the PDF version of
Mhm.
it. And it's like an official PDF version of it. So,
Yes,
yep.
yes. So there's different ways you can find
Mhm.
inexpensively to at least get people, like, if you'll just look at this kind of stuff, you'll buy the book that's, like $10 now.
Mhm.
It's not that
Mhm.
expensive, right? And like you said, it's something you can read in a Sunday afternoon. It's
Mhm.
quick. Or
Turns
listen
the
to.
audible on and cleaned.
Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, okay. So how about next month? What
The
are we on?
mountain, the mountain is you.
The
Yep.
mountain is you. I remember. All right. Well,
Yep.
until then.
Alrighty.
See you
See
next
you.
time.
Yep. See ya.